In an interview with Jenna Fryer from the Associated Press, Bryan Herta revealed that he's working on plans to enter Robert Wickens in the 2024 Indianapolis 500. This huge development comes as a surprise to the motorsports world, as we remember the last time Wickens competed on a high-speed oval. He suffered a serious spinal cord injury in a horrifying crash at Pocono Raceway in 2018. It was a long road to recovery and return to racing for Wickens, but he finally made it happen last year when the Canadian joined Bryan Herta Autosports' Hyundai Elantra TCR program in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. In regards to a potential deal to bring Wickens back to the greatest spectacle in racing to drive an Indy car, Herta told the AP he'd love to bring Robbie back to the Indy 500 and thought about doing it this year. However, they want to make sure they do it the right way with the hand controls technology for paralyzed drivers that hasn't been used in IndyCar before. In a statement, Wickens responded to the situation with the news beginning to spread on the internet. Photo taken by Chris Owens from Penske Entertainment. Some news came out today about the potential for an Indy 500 entry in 2024. My goal since my accident has always been to get back to the very top level of motorsport. Whether that will be IndyCar, IMSA, or some other form of racing, only time will tell. Now, IndyCar President Jay Fry told Marshall Pruitt from Racer.com that IndyCar is open to any driver racing with hand controls, but a Wickens 2024 Indy 500 entry would have to be approved and get the green light from a safety standpoint. One of the most notable drivers to use the hand controls is one of my all-time favorite sports stories, Paralympic gold medalist and former IndyCar driver Alex Zanardi, who raced with hand controls in the Rolex 24 a few years ago. So, Kobe, is Robert Wickens up to this challenge here?
Well, Ben, we haven't even gotten to the 2023 Indianapolis 500 yet, and I'm already pumped for 2024's edition of the greatest spectacle in racing. Because can you imagine the storylines? You have Kyle Larson running the double, Indy and Charlotte on the same day, and then the return of Robert Wickens. That would be very, very special. If anybody is up to the challenge, it's certainly Robert Wickens. This was some welcome news to come out over the Rolex 24 race weekend, and to see how they've actually been working on this for several months behind the scenes. Nobody knew that it was going on, but Bryan Herta has been working very hard to make this happen. Robert Wickens seems very excited about the possibility, and as he said in his statement, he wants to get back to a top tier. It's IndyCar, IMSA. So Robert Wickens, he wants to get back to the highest level of motorsports, and I think that if anybody can do it, it is certainly him. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with this project moving forward.
Now, of course, thinking back to Pocono, we watched Wickens' journey back to doing what he loves the most, getting behind the wheel of a race car and competing in motorsports. But returning to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway at 2.5 mile oval at speeds over 220, 230 miles an hour, the danger level is real, but every driver understands the risk they take every time they put on the helmet. Wickens doesn't seem like the type of person to let fear stop him from reaching his goals of returning to a top series in motorsports. So, Kobe, considering his life-changing crash on a super speedway, are you surprised that Wickens seems willing to race on an oval again?
To be honest with you, Ben, I was actually very, very surprised that Robert Wickens is willing to go through this. And I know back in the early 2010s, I'm sure we all remember that horrifying catch fence crash. It was Mike Conway. He went flying into the catch fence, suffered injuries, and then Conway actually returned to IndyCar, then 500, and the car went up in the air again. Thankfully, not in the fence. But after Mike Conway went up in the air the second time in Indy, he was like, no more. I don't want to do oval racing at all. And that's completely understandable. And look at the horrible crash that Wickens had at Pocono a handful of years ago. It would be easy to understand that Wickens said, I never, ever want to drive on an oval track again, because as we know, whenever you come to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway over 220 miles per hour, or just any oval in general, the danger level goes way up in an Indy car, and you could very well go flying into the catch fence at the Motor Speedway. So it's certainly a major risk. But Robert Wickens, he doesn't be scared of it. He seems to be embracing this, that he could do what many never thought would happen again, to see Robert Wickens drive an Indy car again. If he's able to do that using the ankle, such a remarkable feel-good story, probably one of the best feel-good stories that we could see in motorsports in recent memory.
I've got to say, myself, I'm not surprised. When I look at Robert Wickens' road to recovery and the journey that he's been on, I know Schmidt-Peterson for a long time, they had that 6 car reserved for when, not if, Robert were to get back in an IndyCar. I know that this has been what he's wanted to do really ever since the accident. And, it seems like, I know we were getting a lot of, updates when, in the immediate months after the accident happened. It looks like he has some movement in his legs again, can take a few steps, but obviously nowhere near where he was before the accident. So it makes sense that you would bring some hand controls in here to allow him to race again, and hopefully they can do that. But, I always think back to James Hinchcliffe when he had his life-threatening crash at Indy 500 practice in 2015. And I think he said one of the first questions that he asked his doctor when he woke up was, when can I get back in the race car? And the doctor was really just taken aback by that question. Like, why would you want to get back in the thing that got you here in the first place? But race car drivers are just wired like that sometimes. And I think Robert is no exception. And it's great to see him want to come back, and would certainly, I completely agree with you, Kobe. It would be the feel-good story, of the year and maybe of the 2020s so far, if Robert were to get back on the Indy 500 grid next season.